Okay, so here goes the last part. So as I mentioned in previous videos, Alana had bacterial association. Basically, different parts of her body didn't form right. One of those was the kidney, 20%, only one functioning kidney. It's just, there's a lot of information and a lot to understand. But the week of, on Monday was the last calm day. It was like the calm before the storm. I remember carrying Alana at night. We had like a good moment together when we were just, I was carrying her. I could feel her hugging me back. Then Tuesday came and I had to take Summer to the dentist to get work done because her cheek was swollen. Celeste started getting a wheeze, like when she was breathing, she was wheezing. So after the dentist, later on, I went to take Celeste to the clinic. Her pediatrician didn't sit well with her, so she sent me to the emergency room. We didn't get home until like very late, probably like 2 a.m. And then the next morning I had to wake up early, send Summer to school, and then I had an appointment with an at-home nurse. Thursday came around and Alana had 2 appointments with GI and nephrology. The first appointment was in the morning, next appointment was in the afternoon. It was like a 3-hour gap. They normally give them to me close together, but this time they probably didn't find room, so they gave them to me separate. That same morning, Celeste woke up wheezing really bad. So we weren't okay with the fact that they sent us home in the ER with her. They told us it would just go away. It was just a normal virus. So then I told Alana, okay, I go take Alana. Then we go take Celeste to urgent care again, and then we'll take Alana again to her appointment later on. So we did that. Normally she has blood work done with nephrology every time she goes, but this time they said no. They had run out of Catheter, and they were trying to look for it everywhere, and it seemed like it was out of stock. And they had just found one more, like 2 more bottles there. The nephrologist was like, well, she hasn't really had Catheter. There's really no point in doing her blood work if her labs are going to be all over the place anyway, since she hasn't had Catheter. So we didn't do labs that day, and that night we got home and she was literally out the whole evening. We were being like normal voices loud right in front of her. Like she wasn't in the room put away, she was like in the kitchen with us, and she fell asleep. She was asleep through all our noise, and I was like, that's a little weird. Like she's been asleep this whole time and she doesn't wake up with us talking. We just came to a conclusion. We had a really rough day being at the clinic, forth back. She's probably very tired. The next day, Friday, everything seemed normal, which brings me to urology. So basically, a vesicostomy is when they surgically bring a little part of the bladder out under the belly button, just so she could be able to pee into the diaper and not have to have a catheter. But after they did the surgery, they said that her bladder had pockets. It wasn't like a normal bladder. After they realized that some of her urine was still staying in, it wouldn't drain out on its own. But since her bladder wasn't formed right, it still needed help draining out. So they still had to keep a catheter in. Her case is so unique that sometimes even the RNs didn't know what to do. Before she was discharged, there was many times when her bladder would like fill up and it wouldn't come out on the catheter, and they wouldn't even know what to do. The urologist was only there like once a week, they said. Me knowing that, like me seeing how they would struggle, kind of messed with me, and I will explain why in a little bit. Every time I would go to urology, their goal was to take the catheter out, because anytime there's a foreign object in the body, there's more risk of infection. And obviously with her kidneys, we cannot risk infection. The catheter, the indwelling catheter stays for 30 days or more, and then it gets switched. Which that's what she had. That's what she would have, a little diaper next to her. And that worked very well. But for some reason that day I decided to take it out so she could pee into her diaper. I checked her diaper and it was dry. I was like, wait, this isn't normal. Normally the diaper that I put on the catheter is always pretty heavy. I put in the Foley to drain out the pee, and as soon as I put it in, everything came squirting out. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try one more time. If it doesn't work, I'm putting the indwelling catheter back in. Like another hour, I came back and it was dry again. I was like, this isn't normal. And then this time I put in the Foley, but hardly any pee came out. So I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. So I was like, I'm gonna put the indwelling catheter back in. Like that one was doing just fine. I should have never taken it off. The thing with that indwelling catheter, there's a certain way to put it in or else her pee won't drain out. So this is the indwelling catheter. Put this inside, then you put the water in, and this balloon prevents it from coming out. You can see me pushing it in. So the thing with this is, with her, you had to put a certain amount or try to figure out what the correct amount was for her. Because if you put too much water, there was times when it would block her urine from coming out and she wouldn't pee. And if you put too little, it would also not allow her pee to come out. I've always put like around 2.5, around there. That's it. But that day, I kept putting it in and hardly any pee was coming out. It's like, oh my gosh, the same thing's happening. I'm not putting it in writing to figure out how much I have to put in. Maybe I have to put in a little bit more, or what if I have to put in a little bit less? So I kept trying to figure out the amount of water to put in for her pee to come out, right? So I thought that was the problem. I would put a certain amount, leave her there. I would check. Piper still didn't seem to be getting a lot of pee. So I would go back, try to check it. In my mind, I was like, I saw the RNs not know what to do. The urologist showed me what to do. I just kept trying to fix her. I thought that was the problem. I thought that because I took out the indwelling catheter, I messed it up. So when I kept checking and there was no pee, I started to get worried. And then she got a fever. I knew the second she got a fever, I was supposed to just take her to the hospital. So my body literally just shut down. I was so tired from that week with being in the ER often, in the clinic and the urgent care, and then not sleeping at night because Celeste couldn't breathe, that my mind was like 7 more hours plus in the ER again. For what? Every time I send her to the ER, they always discharge her and they always say she's fine. She's had that problem with where her pee doesn't drain, and I've always fixed it. Like, I can fix it. So I literally just started crying. All I did was get Tylenol, give it to her for her fever, and the fever went away right away. So then my husband called my mom, got me out of it because I had just shut down, and my mom said, okay, I'll take her to the ER. But then my husband decided to take her to the ER. So remember, I was just holding her, and the thing is, she wasn't crying like crazy. She was just like whining. But I was holding her and she just kept staring at me like she would not take her eyes off of me. And I was just crying. I don't know why. I've always taken her to the ER and to all her appointments, every single one. And I've never cried. I just know I have to do it. But this time, I couldn't stop crying. And I kept looking at her. She was looking at me. She kept like whining, which is my biggest regret, is not taking her. And now looking back, it hurts so much because she was probably telling me like, Mom, don't let go, like, please stay with me. So I'm so mad at myself because I could have just slept in the room with her, in the ER with her, or I should have just taken her. Saw me crying and it's almost as if she was comforting me, like just staring at me. So I put her down the whole time, just putting her down. She was in the car, so she just kept staring at me, like she would not stop staring at me. So my husband ended up leaving, taking her. My mom stayed with me to take care of all the other girls because she saw me, I just needed to sleep. I function off of sleep. If I don't sleep, I'm the worst person ever. And I remember I was texting Alan everything. I was like, tell him this, she has this, tell him that, and she has a lot. So I was writing down everything that he needed to say, and as soon as I was done, I fell asleep. Like, I literally immediately fell asleep. I don't even know how long I slept before I got a phone call, and all I remember was it was the nurse. She was asking me questions about Alana. I was like, oh, okay, Alan didn't know what to say, so I'm gonna explain everything to them. As she was talking to me, I just heard in the background, no pulse. And I was like, what? And then she just stayed quiet for like maybe 3 seconds, but it felt forever. And she's like, I'm sorry, but your daughter hasn't had a pulse. As soon as I heard that, I was literally standing right here. All the girls were asleep. I just screamed like, no, at the top of my lungs. What do you mean? I started screaming at her. I was like, what do you mean? She was fine. Like, what do you mean she has no pulse? That's not my daughter. I always take her to the ER. She's always fine. What do you mean she has no pulse? And she's like, we need you to come immediately. Want us to send a taxi for you? Or do you have someone to drive you? And at this point, I'm like screaming at her. I mean, no, like, what do you mean? I was already crying hysterically. My mom was like, what's wrong? So she immediately tells my dad and my sister to drive me over there. My dad was just supposed to go, but I guess he was asleep, so my sister was driving and he was in the passenger seat, and she was kind of driving fast because she saw me, how crazy I was going. I was just screaming like, God, like, no, please, like No, like, save my baby's life. What do you mean she has no pulse? Like, she's supposed to be fine. Like, this can't be happening. Are you serious? So we rushed to the ER. As soon as we got there, I just saw my van with the lights flashing, all the doors open, right outside the ER, and I ran in. I was like, where's Alana? Where's Alana? My daughter's here. Was Alana? And all the security saw me, and I guess they already knew. They all went straight to me, and they just walked me. They walked me like through the back. I've been to that ER so many times, but this time it just felt so different. Like, I was just walking and I hated every single room. I was like pissed at everyone. And then I just look and there's like so many people standing right outside a room staring inside. And I knew obviously that's where Alana was. And as soon as I walk into the room, I see my baby, my tiny baby, in a huge bed. And her feet were white. Her hands were white. She was just laid there. And they kept doing compressions on her. The doctor just came to me, like, literally grabbed me. Like, she wanted to make eye contact with me. She was like, Mom, she hasn't had a pulse. I just want to start warning you that it's most likely she's gone. I was like, what? No, like, I was just in shock. I was around. I was like, Alana, Mama, like, come on. Mama, no, like, this isn't it. I know it. This isn't it. Like, come on, Mama. Like, I was just holding you, like, an hour ago. Come on. Every single time I would hear no pulse, my heart would literally sink and sink and sink. Just there, like, no, like, no, like, this can't be. Like, no. I would just see her little body going up and down. She was already intubated. They're like, this is the last compression we're doing. Like, no, keep going. Like, I kept telling them, keep going, you can't stop. And they kept looking for Alan. They're like, where's the dad? But he had anxiety. Like, he gets anxiety attacks. When everyone was all over him and seeing Alana, he just couldn't take it. But his body went into shock, and I was like, no, like, you guys have to keep going. Like, don't stop. And then the doctor just grabbed me again. She's like, just want to let you know it's been 46 minutes and she's gone. I was like, no, keep trying. Like, where's your husband? You need someone here with you. And I was like, no, my dad's here. I guess if my husband's not here, go find my dad. So then they called my dad, and my sister came along too. And as soon as, like, they walked in the room, they did the last compression on her. I was looking at my dad like, Dad, you know, my baby. And as I turned to them, and all I hear is like, there's a pulse. Like, what? Like, I looked, and then I just hear her little heart, like her little chest breathing again. In that moment, I felt like I could breathe again too. I was like, I just seen her breathe one more time. I was like, yes, like, I knew it. This wasn't it. Thank you, Jesus. They took her up to the PICU. And at that point, I was still, like, in shock with everything. Like, I was pissed at myself for not bringing her in the ER. I was mad she was in this situation because I could have brought her sooner instead of trying to figure out the catheter. I didn't know this about cardiac arrest, but I watched Grey's Anatomy. There's, like, a scene where there it is, like, she kind of drowned, and she was, like, they were doing compressions for like 3 hours. And she came back and she was normal. So I thought, like, okay, she's breathing again. Like, she's survived. Like, she's fine now. She made it again. But then the doctors kept telling me, just so you know, she hasn't had oxygen in her brain, so she might not wake up being the same Alana. Like, what are you talking about? Like, she might not even wake up. She might not react. And we will only know within the next 3 days, next 2 to 3 days. The way you see her now, she's not gonna look the same. So they had to put a line here to draw blood so they won't have to keep, like, poking her, and I guess they had to do it surgically, so they had me out of the room. We went to the waiting area and I was just crying my eyes out. I was like, the doctor was like, yeah, we put the line, and just so you know, we haven't sedated her or anything, and she did not react to us putting the line in here. So I just wanted to let you know how extensive her injuries are to her brain, basically trying to tell me like, okay, like her brain's not functioning anymore. So I kind of just ignored it. I went straight to her bed, and that's when my sister recorded me talking to her. It's like, Alana, mama, Alana, I'm so sorry, like I know I shouldn't have left you, I'm sorry. Alana, hi mama, Alana. Baby. Oh no, what happened, my baby? What happened, my baby? I don't know what's up. Baby, preciosa. Sí, sí, preciosa. Oh, my baby. Oh, my baby. I'm sorry for leaving you. I'm sorry for leaving you, my baby. They had told me she wouldn't react, and she did. She started opening her eyes, and she kind of was like crying, like, Mom. I was like, I'm here, baby, I'm here. I'm so sorry for leaving you, I promise. I don't care about sleep. I'm just gonna stay here with you. See her, like, she just kept moving, and I would grab her arm. My whole body was just in pain and in shock. Like, I kept wanting to use the restroom. I would go, and like, nothing would come out. I would want to throw up, but nothing would come out. I ended up sleeping for 2 hours next to her, and then the next day, people came. My mother-in-law, my sisters, my dad. That's when he told me her body went into septic shock, which is why her heart stopped. Based off of the labs, we see a lot of her organs are failing. They're not doing well. The crazy part, as the day went on, they kept running her labs every hour. Everything's getting better little by little. Her numbers are getting better for her liver. Her kidney too is getting better. Oh, it's still damaged, but we're scared because of all the extensive everything that happened, like the shock that happened in her body messed with her organs, so her kidney is probably functioning even less now. So I think it would be best to send her to a hospital where they can do dialysis. We don't do dialysis here in case her kidney were to stop working. So I heard that, I was like, oh, of course, like I want her to stay alive, like yes, whatever. I feel like I kept making all the wrong decisions because I was like, I should just kept her there. She was doing fine and she was really getting better. They put EEG to see movement signs in her brain. I would see the lines like going up and down, so her brain was like moving and everything. They did a head ultrasound. They said the head ultrasound came out good.
The head ultrasound looked normal.
It looked normal.
Yeah.
So in me, I was like, okay, I was already starting to get hope, like, yeah, she's gonna make it. I'd send her to a better hospital where they're gonna take better care of her. So I was like, okay, good. So then that's when UCLA came through a helicopter, and I was like, can I go with her? Like, I need to go with her. I'm so sorry, but since she needs a lot of specialists, the helicopter's too full. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just see her over there in the other hospital. So I went. That's when I saw her leave. And I saw the rainbow. And then there's other people that pointed out that there was an E. Like, for my name, Erica, there was an E in the sky. After that, I got to UCLA. I didn't see her the same. Right before she left on the helicopter, she was trying to open her eyes. I remember I was all happy. I was like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's opening her eyes. Like, she was like trying to open them. And so I went to UCLA. At that point, she was already, I just saw her. That's the second I regretted switching hospitals. Just didn't feel right. I saw her eyes closed and shut down completely. They put all the electrodes again. I would talk to her, like, Alana, like she wouldn't respond. I could feel it. My body was already starting to feel like she was gone, but I was still in denial. Like, I was like, no, I was losing it. I was like, I cannot be a mom. I'm gonna take all my girls somewhere. I'm gonna drop them off somewhere where someone could take care of them better. I'm the worst mom ever. I cannot keep them alive. I don't deserve to be a mom. And at the same time, Celeste was still wheezing. At that point, she was having really bad retractions. So I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? I have to take her to the ER to not to go through the same thing her sister went to. Like, they had told me she wouldn't react, and she did. She started opening her eyes, and she kind of was like crying, like, Mom. I was like, I'm here, baby, I'm here. I'm so sorry for leaving you, I promise. I don't care about sleep. I'm just gonna stay here with you. And I just see her, like, she just kept moving, and I would grab her arm. I was like, I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm sorry. I promise you. I'm here. I'm here. I love you. Like, her body was like so cold. Like, I just, like, she started kind of like having like, her face was twitching. At some point I was like, why is she twitching? Like, we're not sure. Like, she might be cold. Like, okay, we'll cover her. So they put like a plastic thing where it was like it would help keep her body warm. And I was just like, there. I was like, okay, good. Like, my whole body was just in pain and in shock. Like, I kept wanting to use the restroom. I would go, and like, nothing would come out. I would want to throw up, but nothing would come out. I ended up sleeping for 2 hours next to her, and then the next day, more people came. My mother-in-law, my sisters, my dad. And then that's when he told me, you know, her body went into septic shock, which is why her heart stopped. Like, based off of the labs, we see a lot of her organs are failing. Like, they're not doing well. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, what? You saw how it happens. But the crazy part, like, as the day went on, they kept running her labs every hour, and they're like, okay, well, everything's getting better little by little. Her numbers are getting better for her liver. Her kidney too is getting better. Oh, it's still damaged, but we're scared because of all the extensive everything that happened, like the shock that happened in her body, the septic shock messed with her organs, so her kidney is probably functioning even less now. So I think it would be best to send her to a hospital where they can do dialysis. We don't do dialysis here, in case her kidney were to stop working. So I heard that, I was like, oh, of course, like, I want her to stay alive, like, yes, whatever. I feel like I kept making all the wrong decisions, because I was like, I should just kept her there. She was doing fine, and she was really getting better. Or so I thought. Like, she was, they were putting her, they were checking like an EEG to see movement signs in her brain. I would see the lines like going up and down, so her brain was like moving and everything. They did a head ultrasound. They said that the head ultrasound, like, that they didn't find anything wrong. Like, the head ultrasound came out good. So in me, I was like, okay, I was already starting to get hope, like, yeah, she's gonna make it, like, you know, and like, oh, okay, and let's send her to a better hospital where they're gonna take better care of her. Like, so if in case she needs dialysis, she can have it. And I'm like, man, I should have just kept her. And like, I literally was making all the wrong decisions. So they're like, oh, we need to just call to see if they even have space. And they had told me there wasn't any space, but then, you know, during the day, they're like, oh, well, UCLA just found the space, so we're going to be able to send her there. So I was like, okay, good. So then that's when UCLA came through a helicopter, and I was like, can I go with her? Like, I need to go with her. Like, I'm not, like, I need to go with her. That, like, I'm so sorry, but since she needs a lot of, like, specialists, like, the helicopter's too full. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, even at the NICU, every time I haven't been, like, if there's any reason why I'm not there for her, she always declines, like, in her health. So I was like, oh my god, like, and at that point I had to resign everything. They're already taking her. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'll just see her over there in the other hospital. So I went. That's when I saw her leave. And I saw the rainbow. Well, actually, I didn't even notice, but then, you know, when I was looking at the video, I saw the rainbow, and I was like, oh my gosh, my baby. And then there's other people that pointed out that there was an E. Like, for my name, Erica, there was an E in the sky. And now looking back, I know that was a moment. She probably left. Like, she was brain dead, because after that, I got to UCLA. I didn't see her the same. Like, right before we left, right before she left on the helicopter, she was trying to open her eyes. I remember I was all happy. I was like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's opening her eyes. Like, she was like trying to open them, and because I was there, not thinking about it. But every time I leave her, she doesn't do well. So since she went alone in the helicopter, I'm pretty sure that's when she just was like, this is it. So I went to UCLA, and at that point she was already, like, I just saw her. That's the second I regretted switching hospitals. The second I walked in, it just didn't feel right. I saw her eyes closed and like shut down completely. She was just there, like. And the reason why I noticed, I felt it because you know, her lips, they were like this, like her bottom lip just like was like she wasn't trying to, like, she didn't have it right like this. It was just they put like all the electrodes again. I would talk to her, like, Alana, like, she wouldn't respond. She was, I could feel it, like, I could feel the difference. And then I hadn't seen the girls, so there was another day when I went. Where I went to go sleep at the house. I remember that night I went crazy, like, because she wasn't at home. And I think my body was already starting to feel like she was gone. But I was still in denial. Like, I was like, no, I was losing it. I was like, I cannot be a mom. I'm going to take all my girls to the somewhere. I'm going to drop them off somewhere where someone could take care of them better. Like, I'm the worst mom ever. I cannot keep them alive. I don't deserve to be a mom. At some point I was like, I felt like I couldn't live knowing that I couldn't take my daughter to the ER and keep her alive. It was terrible. Like, And at the same time, Celeste was still wheezing, and but at that point, she was having really bad retractions. So I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? Like, I was like, I have to take her to the ER too. Like, she cannot die. She cannot pass away too. Like, she cannot go through the same thing her sister went to. Like, so I immediately was like, you know what, I have to take her to the ER. So I went to the ER at UCLA where Alana was. And I told them that, you know what, my daughter went to cardiac arrest. I keep taking them to the ER. I took her to urgent care. They keep sending me home saying that it's nothing, but I need you guys to see her. Like, my daughter's upstairs, had a cardiac arrest, so I need you guys to help her. Like, I cannot have her go home the same. At UCLA, they decide, like, you know what, yeah, we're gonna hospitalize her. We're gonna keep her in here. And they put her in the same floor as Alana so I could keep coming back and forth. And it would just hurt my heart seeing Alana because she kept getting swollen. I would touch her head and it was like cold, starting to get really cold. And I would see her hands, everything about her was getting super swollen and big. And they're like, wow, they told me that she might not stop swelling, that's because of the cardiac arrest. And at that point, I kept asking them, like, so is she under medications? Like, did you guys sedate her or what? Like, you know, she's not responding to anything. They were like, she's not on nothing. She's not on medication. She's not sedated. She's just not reacting. So, like, in me, I started feeling, like, the sensation, like, oh my gosh, she's gone. But I didn't want to accept it. I was like, no, there's hope. Like, she's gonna come back. I don't care. But, like, something in me just felt it. I kind of knew it, but we didn't want to say it. Like, well, there's a test that we can do. They check for blood flow in the brain, and they ended up doing that one. So there was one time when we went in, we weren't even expecting to go in and them telling us this, but the doctor came in and he's all like, well, we checked for blood flow and we're most positive that she might be brain dead. I was like laid down next to Alana when he was saying this, and at that point I was like, you know, doctors do this because they don't want to kill the hope we have. But I literally just looked at him and was like, I know you keep saying maybe, but I need you to tell me right now if you're 100% sure she's pregnant, because you keep saying maybe and I keep having hope that she can make it, that she can come out of this. So if you know she cannot, and you've seen this before, you need to tell me that she's 100% brain dead. And he just looked at me, he's like, we're 100% sure that she's brain dead. There's no function in her brain. And I was just there next to her, and again, I was like it kind of messes with you because you know she's gone, but at the same time you feel her warm body and her heart still beating. I was sad, but at the same time it's like just knowing that I'm having her in my arms, I wasn't going crazy. I was just like sad. And then the crazy part too was like that during her time there, they kept telling me like she can go into another cardiac arrest. Just know that her organs aren't functioning that well, and then her heart could stop again at any time. Her oxygen, her blood pressure would always be up and down, like bad. But every time I was there, her oxygen was normal and her blood pressure would control itself. So that's when I was like, how is she not alive? Like, how is her brain dead if even her little body knows I'm there? She always stabilizes when I'm here. I think I don't understand. And part of me was like, you know what, no, let's wait until she stops swelling up. I know her brain cells will work again. And Alan came to see her while I was in the other room with Celeste. He said he saw a tear fall from her left eye. And the next morning when I checked, the nurse said she checked and that her eye was reactive. So I was like, okay, like she's probably like coming back. But after that, like this was before they did the test. But they kept checking and checking. She wouldn't respond anymore. And I would feel her, like I would feel her cold little head. Her organs were still functioning, but they were like slowly getting worse. So I didn't want to risk it. Like I didn't want to risk that I was not going to be there and then they're going to call me and then I wouldn't even get to see her body anymore. So I wasn't saying yes to the extubation, but like I guess I was just going along with it. And then child life came. I started taking her handprints, her footprints, her fingerprints. I was still in denial. Like I wasn't like, I'm just doing this to have it, but I know she's gonna come back. So then we decided to do it on the extubation on April 27th. On April 27, I came in, I bathed her one last time. I changed her colostomy bag one last time. I miss her. I miss her. She took her stomas and her colostomy. And that's my baby. Like, those are for me to take care of. I miss her body. Just miss her so much. Her little hand with 4 fingers. I miss her little dangly thumb. Around 2, the doctors came in. And we were outside and they let us go outside in the patio. I chose to be outside in the patio because she loved being outside. She would see like the trees and she would love it. We were outside playing music. Doctors came and I just saw them rushing in and I just held her tight. I was like, and I just started listening to her heart. Like, it was the last time I was gonna hear it. But at the same time, I was so ready to hold her with nothing again, without any tubes, without her being held onto anything. So they extubated her and I just held her like I would hear her me again with nothing attached to her. And then I just kept hearing her heart until 2:27. They checked that her heart stopped beating again officially. They found a virus in her, you know, like a respiratory virus. So the same one that Celeste had, which is the rhinovirus. They said it was like a normal one. That's what caused her whole body to go into septic shock quick, especially since her kidney wasn't functioning well. It happened fast. So I hate the rhinovirus. Not only did it affect Celeste and she was wheezing and retracting really bad, but it took my baby. A simple virus that will go away on its own, but it took my baby.